Hi, I'm Ronnie Hernandez, and I'm going to talk to you about an introduction to RMarkdown. Before talking about the tool, I want to talk to you about what problem this tool solves. And let's imagine that you have a research project and you have done all your data analysis, all your results, tables, and figures, and you have a final report, and you need to send this report to Pablo and Marcela. Pablo, he just needs the report. He doesn't care about the code used to run the analysis. He just needs your text with the results of the figures and tables and just that. On the other side, Marcela, she needs everything what Pablo needs, but also she wants the code that you create to run the analysis and create the figures and the tables and your models. So what do you do? So probably you have this workflow where you have your work in R, you have your data files, and you have a text editor where you are copying and pasting the results from R to that text editor. And at the end, you create an output as a PDF file, and that's the one that you are going to send to Pablo. But this is too much manual work. It is an error-prone process because you can get confused when you are copying and pasting things. It has low reproducibility. Probably if you change images in other programs, if you are, again, copying and pasting, recreating tables, you are not going to know exactly which code created what. And it is a time-consuming process. You are going to spend a lot of time on this copy and pasting. But you have your PDF that you sent to Paulo. On the other side, Marcela also wants the code. So you send the PDF to Marcela and the scripts. But you did exactly the same thing as you did with Paulo. You were copy and pasting everything around, so you spend a lot of time. So you have the same disadvantages as the workflow that you use to send the report to Pablo, but also for Marcela, there is going to be a disconnection between the report and the code. And also it's going to be harder for Marcela to reproduce the report from the scripts. So here is where RMarkdown comes handy, because in just one place, in just one document, you can have all your text, all your discussion, all your introduction, all your references, and also the code that you use to do your exploratory data analysis, to build your models, to build your figures and tables in just one place. So you are going to avoid that copy and paste that you were doing before in that workflow. So RMarkdown is a package from R that you can use to create reports and also a lot of things. But on this talk, we are going to focus just in the basic files that you can work with. There is a book, so you have the URL in there, so you can check the details of that package. There is also one nice article from Nature that talks about this, and it has the experiences from scientists working with these kind of tools, because RMarkdown is not the only tool out there. If you come from the Python world, you can probably work with Jupyter notebooks. So there are already tools there that can be really useful, and there is already experience from the community in general and also from the scientific community working with this kind of tools. So probably what you're going to do, there is always solutions, help out there in the internet. With RMarkdown, you can have different outputs. So you're going to work in RStudio in a RMD file. That's the way that you can recognize an RMarkdown file. It's going to have the extension RMD. But that is going to be your work in progress, and the final document, it can be an output as an HTML. You can open an HTML file in a browser, Brave, Firefox, Chrome, whatever you use. You can have a portable document format, or you can have a Word document also. So from just one file, from an RMD file, you can have all your text, all your code, and from that same file, you can create different types of outputs from the same source. So that is a really great advantage. Okay, so now that we know what problem solves, let's get started. So what are the steps? My advice is that per research project that you have, you create an R project in RStudio, because you are going to have in one side all your data for that research project. You can have the images, you can have your scripts, you can have everything in just one directory. So you are going to open a new project. Then you are going to, well, select a new directory that is going to create a new folder, empty folder with just the R project file. From here, you are going to select new project, because that is what you want to create. There are other options in there, but in this case, we need a new project. And a new window is going to pop up. You will introduce the name of your new folder. Try to use always names without the spaces, points, and mix. Also, don't mix capital letters. It's going to make everything easier when you are working with paths. And you have the option to select that your new folder is going to be a subdirectory of. So you're going to save your new folder under your desktop, under your documents, under whatever path that you want. Now that you open your R project, you can create a new file, and you are going to select an RMarkdown. You are going to see this option if you already installed the package RMarkdown. So if you don't see this option, go and install RMarkdown. Now that you select RMarkdown, a new window is going to pop up, and in here you can write the title of your report. You can use normal text in there, because this is going to be the title that the final user is going to view. And you can also write the author of this file. You can see over here that you have the options. I'm going to leave this one as an HTML so we can play around with this stuff. If you click OK, this is going to create a template file. So it is going to have some content that you can erase, but it works as a guide for you, so you can check what are the elements in the RMarkdown. You can create also an empty document, but it is going to be without any template. So, okay, so let's go and do this in RStudio. Let's follow all the steps over here. So you can see over here that I am in no project. I'm going to select new project, new directory, new project. This is going to be an introduction to RMarkdown. I'm going to leave this under my desktop. So create project. And now you can see at the upper right corner that I have a new project, the introduction to RMarkdown. And now I'm going to create a new file. This is going to be an RMarkdown. This is going to be my new file. Okay. And this is what I told you, that is the template. So what you will see here, you will see that we have this format. We have new symbols over here. We have this, and we have text. This first segment that is between those dashes, it is the YAML. This is the YAML section. And everything here is going to be the configuration of your file. In this case, I just have information of this file, like the title, the author, and the date. But also I have this option that is the output, and it is that the final output from this RMD file, it's going to be an HTML document. Now, the other thing that you will see over here is that we have these chunks. This is a chunk where all the code is going to be. All the R code that you want to be executed has to be inside a chunk. Why? Because RMarkdown is going to take everything that is outside the chunks like this. RMarkdown is going to say, okay, this is text. I don't have to run this as code. I'm just going to print this as it is because it is text. But everything inside a chunk is going to be code. For example, in here, you have summary cars. When you render this document, it is going to execute this. Now, the text, you are going to be able to use a style following the syntax of Markdown. Markdown is a way to write text with some symbols. For example, if you see the numeral symbols in here, this means that it is a subtitle. So we have three elements: the YAML, that is the configuration of your document, the chunks, that are these, and you have the text that you can style with Markdown. So we have this template. I'm going to render this template. You can click in here on Knit, or you can use this shortcut that is Ctrl-Shift-K. So I'm going to click in here, Knit. It is going, because it is the first time that I'm creating this file, it is going to ask me for a name. So I'm going to say, okay, this is my test. And now you will see that you have this new window over here, and it was telling me the process of rendering the file. So it is going to give you a percentage of the completeness of the file. And you will see that as long R is evaluating everything and running the code, it is going to update the percentage of the process of rendering the file. At the end, you will have something like this. So from this RMD file, you have an HTML file. So you can see over here that you have the title in here, I have the author in here, the date, and that's it. This is a configuration that it is creating this as an HTML. You can see it here in the name. The name that I gave to this was test, and now it has the extension HTML. And now you have a subtitle because I wrote down these numeral symbols, so you have this subtitle. And you can see over here that you have your normal text, but you will see that you have this style and that you have a link over here. So how can you do that? You can see that in the example here. I'm going to move this a little bit just to show you both files and compare them. So you can see it over here. Okay, so you can write down an URL between these symbols. So the text inside these symbols is going to be shown as a link, and it is a function of link. If you use these symbols, the word between those symbols is going to get this style. And there is a reference cheat sheet from RStudio that you can use to check that. So you will see over here that you have the chunk of code, summary cars, it is shown in here. You have summary of cars, and you have the result of the execution of that code. Now you can see again the symbols in here. This is a subtitle, so you have a subtitle in here. You have normal text in here, the normal text. Now, you can see that on this chunk, you have this option, echo, equal false. So if this is false, the code of plot pressure is not going to be shown. So you can see here that we don't have the coding here, but we just have the result of the execution of that chunk of code. By default, this is in true. So that's why in here, even when the template doesn't have the option echo equal true, it shows the code because by default it's in true. In this case, if we don't want to show the code, we just have to set up this to false. Okay, what other things can we do? We are going to focus on the YAML. So I have another example over here, and you will find this in the repository on GitHub. Okay, I have it in here. So I have another file in here. This is baby names report. I use this as an example from the Tidy Tuesday community. So you will see over here that I have another configuration. If I want to need this as a PDF, I can do it. So I'm going to need this as an HTML file. So you just have an example code. So we can have some figures that comes from this data set, baby names. And this is the output as an HTML. So you have figures, you have a table. Okay, now I want this same document as a PDF. So I'm going to need the PDF. Because HTML, you are going to be able to open that in a browser. That's basically how web pages are built. Now you can see the process, and we have the PDF file. So now you have the figures in there. And we can also check how we can render this as a Word document. I'm going to render the document as a Word document. So you can see from this bottom over here, you have the options. There is one restriction, and it is when you want to create things that kind of move, that is going to be just possible with HTML files. So I have the document. I don't know if I can open this from here. Just let me do a little trick. I'm going to move to the folder. I have the baby names reporting here. And now you can see that we have the same report as a Word document. So this is pretty handy. And you can see that this example is not showing the code. But if I want the code, I'm just going to set up this option to true. And let's say that I'm going to show this as a PDF. Okay, now I'm rendering this document as a PDF. With the code. And now we have the PDF. So you can see the format of the code in here, that it was used to create this table and all the code to create these figures. Okay. So with this, we'll finish my presentation. Everything is in the slides, all the explanation with a little bit more of detail. And you have another resources over here like this RStudio cheat sheet that you can check. And it is pretty handy when you don't know very well how to use Markdown. So you can see how you will write this on your RMarkdown and how it's going to look like in the final output. And now that you know the basics of RMarkdown, there are other packages that follows the same idea. So you can write even your thesis with RMarkdown with this package, thesis down. You can create a website with block down, a dashboard with flex dashboard, or even more, you can write and publish a book. Some books that are written in RMarkdown are these. So you have the links over here if you want to check. These are like really nice resources, and they are written in RMarkdown. Extra information about where RMarkdown idea comes from. This is not specifically from R, it comes from Markdown. So there was Markdown syntax, and it was used to produce HTML pages. So these two people created Markdown, and you can check more information about this in Wikipedia, and there is like one documentary about Aaron Swartz that is pretty nice, and I do recommend you to watch this one. So thank you very much.